Hey everybody, this is Fargo Franklin III with New Stitch Media. Today I am joined by former boxing manager for Joe Frazier, Bert Watson. How you doing today, buddy?
Man, I'm trying to make it, baby. How about yourself?
I'm blessed, man. It's a very beautiful day in Virginia right now.
Virginia, where in Virginia you at, baby?
Newport News, man.
Newport News. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
sir. Born and bred.
That's a little bit of ways from Philly, but you know.
So before we get into your journey as being a boxer, a manager for boxers, what inspiring words can you give my viewers right now?
Say it again.
What inspiring words can you give my viewers right now?
Well, that life is to be cliche. You know, to give an old cliche is that life is what you make it, but it's also how you make it, and how you go through life. You know, you got to live and learn. You got to listen to everything. Nothing anybody ever says is irrelevant, because if they say it, they want you to hear it. And you got to listen, because you never know how much you don't know until you need to know it, baby.
Amen to that. Thank you for those words of encouragement.
Yes,
So,
sir.
what inspired you to become a boxing manager? Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Well, I didn't really inspire to become a manager in boxing or to actually get into sports. Everything that has happened to me during the course of my life with boxing and MMA has always been a chance meeting. You know, I had a chance meeting with Joe Frazier back in the day, and that chance meeting led to a friendship with him, and that friendship developed into a real friendship where we actually hung out and stayed together and, you know, kind of shared each other's lives and family. You know, on Joe Frazier's 49th birthday, my mom cooked him a plate of fish and grits, baby, and you know exactly what that is. You know,
Yes.
he sat at my mother's table in her kitchen, and she made a pot of grits and fried some fish. You know, so that's how connected our families were. And she cooked the fish with the head on it. All y'all don't know what that is. But our families kind of, you know, intertwined, and we got to know each other, and so not only did we have a work relationship, but we had a personal, friendly relationship. He spoke at my father's funeral very endearingly about my father, because he knew my whole family. But that extended into our work relationship with him, working with him and working with his family and running his gym, because Joe had a gym in Philly that I ran, and I ran the gym basically because he had fighters, and Joe had 6 of his family members fighting at one time, and you know, aside from his sons and his nephews and his cousins. And he also Joe had a very famous trainer by the name of Yank Durham, who was the #1 trainer. We had his son, his name was Chandler Durham, who actually turned out to be a fairly decent fighter. So we had those fighters and had to create situations for them and get them fights and promote them. And, you know, we went from getting Joe jobs based on, you know, what he did and his name, which was not a hard thing to do. You know, to get a job for a guy with a name like Smoking Joe Frazier, you know, that wasn't a hard thing to do. But we did that and ran the business. And you know, it was a great relationship, man, and it was a learned experience for me. A guy from Philadelphia, you know, ironically, Joe Frazier is from Beaufort, South Carolina, and I am from a place called Hugh G, South Carolina, which is probably 20 miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up in the same, around the same people.
Mm-hmm.
If we dug in that ground a little bit, we probably see we have the same relatives. That's how close we grew up. So we have basically the same background and the same ethics with life and people. And he gave me a shot, man. And I had to make the best of it, But it was outstanding, man. It was unbelievable. The things that I did, the people that I met, the people that I got exposed to, and some of the things that happened along the way and during the time that Joe and I were together.
So let me ask you this.
Happy New Year to you, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Happy New Year. So what were some of the challenges you faced back in the day with being a manager? I know you are a person of color. So what was those type of challenges and obstacles that you had to overcome?
Well, those challenges were more obstacles than challenges, because being an African American and being one who was born and raised basically in the South,
mm-hmm.
I knew what segregation and race relations, and I knew what all that was. Mm-hmm. So I also, when you know what that is and you live that, you learn how to navigate through that and around it. Mm-hmm. For us, it had sadly almost become a way of life. Mm-hmm. But we learned how to navigate around it and work around it and not let it suppress us to a point that we didn't survive and keep going. Fortunately, there were those who became celebrities and that made it to a very high level of various fields of profession of their profession, and when you got to that point where you were a celebrity and you were making money or generating dollars, then it became easier for you to matriculate through the system. But there were obstacles. There were still obstacles as an African American manager and as a celebrity. Mm-hmm. But you learn how to navigate because you learn how to stay your course. Mm-hmm. You stayed your course and made the best of what was there. But it was a bit trying at times, But mm-hmm. Hey, man, we fought our way through it. We're fighters. We fought our way through it. And fortunately enough, Joe Frazier excelled in the sport. He excelled through the Olympics. He excelled through the different organizations in boxing, and ultimately became the heavyweight champion of the world. And ultimately, and I'll say this, became one of 3 of the best fighters that ever lived. And historically, that time for Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali was, and keeping in the context of what we were speaking on now, they became transformational. They transcended the segregation movement, and they went through it at that time. And at the height of that movement, Muhammad Ali became a man who expressed his voice, expressed his feeling, and he was allowed to do that. And when I say allowed, I mean that he created a platform that allowed him to do that, and it opened the gate for a lot of others to express themselves, and to be able to express themselves, and also enabled others to see that it was okay to express yourself. And there were benefits from doing that and standing up. So that period and that time between he and Joe Frazier was a revelation in the history of our sports, and social and racial injustices, and they became pinnacles of their time.
Mm. What advice would you give some of these younger players, athletes, boxers about utilizing that platform on social media to talk about the social injustice that we're dealing with and facing with each and every day if you're a person of color?
Well, as an athlete, I'm metaphorically say, as an athlete, it's like when you're a boxer and you see that opportunity to take that shot, and you see that opportunity to put those combinations together so that they help you win. You put those combinations together on the football field when there's an opportunity to make a tackle or to make a big play or to make a one-handed catch, or in basketball to slam dunk or make that last shot with 3 seconds in it. When you have those opportunities, you make the best of them, because you know that opportunity might not come again, and you might not get it again. And guys sit and tell guys, you know what? When it's time to win this title, let's go get this, because we don't know when we're going to get another shot or another opportunity to win this title again. And that goes through all of sports. That's all of business. That's all of life. And that's why athletes and people who have that opportunity to take that last shot or that platform to make that voice or to use that voice, take advantage of it, because you may not get that last shot, opportunity, or platform again to use that voice. And I'm very proud of the way the athletes today are using those platforms to express their voices. And I'm very proud that they know that they have it and that they're doing it. And I'm also very proud. I'm going to say this without getting in trouble. I'm going to try not to get in trouble. I'm from an era where we had definite leaders on one end of the spectrum or the other, whichever end of the spectrum you were on. There was Martin Luther King, there was Malcolm X, there was, Rap Brown, Huey Newton, Stokely Carmichael. There were different leaders that were all somehow in different ways talking about social injustice and racial injustice. Today, I don't know if there's one person that people of your generation look to, but then again, collectively, all of you have that voice of leadership. All of you speak of leadership and have that voice because you have that platform. And I am very glad to see that, because I know what it is if you didn't have it, baby.
It's a terrible, terrible thing, man.
Hey, man, you hitting home, baby. You hitting home.
Always, man. You always, because this is a perfect time and topic to talk about these things, because look at what we just saw last week. And a lot of my members of the media were just, hold on for a second. A lot of my members of the media were just so outraged that this has happened that they stormed the Capitol, and there wasn't no type of justice. There wasn't no type of anything. It was just a frustrating time for people of color to actually see this could actually happen. And so now I'm using my platform to talk about the uncomfortable topics that a lot of people are not trying to discuss. So with that is said, what do you like? What improvement can we do as a culture to move forward from looking at all these injustices?
Well, all of that and everything we're seeing now didn't just happen. Okay. It may have just happened last Wednesday, and the world had an opportunity to see it. But stuff like that didn't just happen, baby. That didn't just happen overnight. What has happened is that the world has had an opportunity to see it.
Mm-hmm.
People who heard that it existed now know that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
People who were pressured to do something about it reacted from the pressure, not because they knew of it or were aware of it. They reacted from the pressures of we've got to do this. We've got to listen. We've got to answer this. We've got to make this better. And no one saw it like everyone saw it a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's to a lot. It was outrageous and you know, it was inflammable, you know, that it happened and no one understood. But, you know, everybody got a chance to see a portion of what has been happening for a long time. And I'm going to tell you something, bro.
Yes, sir.
This is the first time in my career that I've ever sat and had this kind of conversation with anybody.
Wow.
So you better lock this shit up. I've always been very careful about what I said and how I said it because I knew that it was best to be careful. But I also know that I have a voice and that regardless of what level of platform, a platform is a platform. Whether you win first place in junior high or high school, elementary school, college, or pros, first place is first place. A platform is first place. And you know, I've always known that I've had a platform, but you know, you have to be, first of all, listen. You can't hear if you don't listen. You can't hear if you don't listen. And nothing anybody says to you should be irrelevant. Because if they said it to you, they want you to hear it. It's because they wanted you to hear it. And everybody now is speaking. One way or another, everybody's speaking out about different things and different ways and different solutions and different answers. And we got to listen to all of it. Because somewhere in all of it, baby, when you roll the dice, you're hoping that it comes up 7-11. Okay? And right now, you know, the dice are being rolled, and you got to pay attention. Because it's your turn to pick them dice up and roll them again. But I'm happy and I'm proud to see that people are listening, that people are at least trying to understand, and that people are not just trying to understand what's happening, but are listening loud enough to understand each other's culture. Because you have to at least have some sense of understanding of a culture before you try to create something for that culture.
Now, what tips or advice will you give Deontay Wilder right now? I know he's a young fighter and he just got beaten last year. What advice would you give him about overcoming that obstacles and getting back into the ring to get that belt back?
Grasshopper. Okay. Patience, grasshopper. You know, it's you know, Muhammad Ali lost 5-6 times, maybe. Maybe. Joe Frazier lost a few fights. You know, George Foreman, Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, those things. Anderson Silva lost the fight. Lost his last 2. Randy Couture. I mean, people get to a certain level in sports, and the opposite of winning is losing. The opposite of losing is winning. But you only get those two choices.
Mm-hmm.
But in between those two choices, you need the consistency to maintain and the consistency to sustain your craft. You gotta stay in it. I tell guys all the time, it's your night, your fight. You need to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Then I switch it to the judges.
Mm-hmm.
It's your night, your fight. They might not get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Mm.
So you have to, it's you get an opportunity to perform at a high level. You need to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be consistent with it, and you got to remember what it took you to get to that level. Because I tell guys all the time, I've done fights for, Mike Tyson and Oscar De La Hoya, and I've done fights on Showtime and HBO and pay-per-view, and I did the very first UFC in 2001, UFC 30.
Mm-hmm.
And up until maybe 4 years ago, I worked with every UFC star available or has been in the UFC. Mm-hmm. And I tell all of them the same thing. And I've looked all of them in their face and I say, you know what? You got here and you're here. But it's easier to get here than it is to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you forget that. It's easier to get it than it is to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
So you keep that in mind, that once you get there, and you got to keep it. And every now and then somebody's going to throw you a left or a right and take it from you. But you know what? You take that left, you take that right, and you stay in there. Right now, I mean, he still has golden opportunities or opportunities. Whatever's going to happen right now in 2022 is going to be dependent on what happens in 2021, maybe, or 2023. And right now in 2021, he's still up in the top 3. Be patient, grasshopper.
So you work with a lot of boxers like, Vernon Forrest, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali. What did it mean to you that you can actually help these young boxers out to perfect their craft?
It was very enjoyable for me, and I say this: history has a way, and I got a lot of birdisms. Okay, I throw a lot of them out, and I call them birdisms. History has a way of making you a part of it without you asking. And I've learned that. History does that to you, make you a part of it without you even ask. I had no idea. I knew Joe Frazier was history. I had no idea Roberto Duran was going to become history, or Vernon Forrest, or Camacho, Hector Camacho Jr., or Randy Couture, or Tito Ortiz, or Chuck Liddell, or George St. Pierre. I had no idea that they were going to become history. But I knew at the time that I was involved in it that they were good enough to be thought of as probably the best that was doing whatever they did. And to make the best of it. But had no idea that all of those situations that I was in and all of those people that I worked with, that all of that was eventually going to become a part of history, a part of real history, like the stuff behind my head over there. To know that guy right there, Muhammad Ali, and over there, all those UFC guys over there, you see, and I got that thing there that says lifetime achievement, right there. You don't always plan for that. You plan to be successful, and you plan to make it through whatever it is that you do. But you don't know until you get in it. But once you get in it, you need to commit to it. You need to know that you're in it. You need to be serious about it. And I'll go back to that Birdism again. You never know how much you don't know until you need to know
it. Yes, sir. Now you have 14 years of experience working for the UFC.
Yes, sir.
You end up leaving and started your own company.
Yes, sir.
Was that a difficult choice for you to make?
Yes, sir. It was. Man, I'm telling you some shit I ain't say to nobody. It was difficult because it wasn't a choice that I wanted to make. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't want to leave the UFC. I had no intentions of leaving the UFC. Mm-hmm. But somebody said something to me that disrespected me. Mm-hmm. Somebody said something that questioned my integrity, questioned my work ethics, and they came at me and I went back at them. Mm-hmm. And you know, I needed to have the last word. Mm-hmm. And that was the Burt in me in the street, the Philly. I'm from Philly. Mm-hmm. That was the Burt and the Philly in me that needed to have that last word. Mm-hmm. And I did, and it didn't end right. It ended with me walking away, which I didn't want to walk away, but I did, and it happened. And that left me in a situation where I have always been a person to create my own situations. Mm-hmm. My brother would say to me, "Oh, here we go. You reinventing yourself again." Jeez. Mm-hmm. But you know what? That's what I've always been an independent coordinator. I've always been an independent contractor. When I left the UFC, I still had to work, still had to pay bills, still had to live. Mm-hmm. Right now, you know, I mean, it's hard to get them up there, but I still got a good 10 years to go. Mm-hmm. Easy. So I had to keep going. So when I left the UFC, I think I shut down for about a month because my mind was in turmoil. Because I realized, you know, that was the highest position in that organization for a person of color. And I knew that. And you know, it was not something that I wanted to do, but it happened. So I had to digest that, and then I had to reassess it. And what I did was, you know, I all my entire career, I worked with Joe Frazier for years. I worked with all those boxers. You know, the only person I never worked with was Lennox Lewis. And then I transitioned from boxing to MMA and worked with anybody you could name except anybody that's come up over the last 4 years. And I did all of that on this. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start using this. You know, at one point, Joe Rogan gave me a title. He called me Babysitter to the Stars. and I stuck with that. And that stuck with me. And then I became Babysitter to the Stars. And everybody was calling me Babysitter to. And eventually, they started calling me Burt. And then eventually, they started calling me Burt Watson. So if I did this for everybody, I figured I could try to do it for myself. So that's what I've been doing since leaving the UFC. I created, you know, Burt Watson Promotions, Burt Watson for Real. I'm on all social media. Burt Watson. I'm going down with my name, bro. You know, it's mine and it's real. You know, and I did a show. I did my first show because I've coordinated shows for everybody. You know, and I said, shit, why can't I do one for me?
Mm-hmm.
No, I've always promoted and coordinated a show, but put
Mm-hmm.
somebody else's name. Somebody else had their name on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I'd do my own, which I did. I had my very first show at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino that I have a pretty good relationship with in Fort Lauderdale. And I did my first show, and for the first show, it was pretty successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ran into COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 3 days canceled because of it. I didn't have time to cultivate, what I was doing, or to cultivate a television contract, because that was my next move. But for the last year or so, everybody and everything's been kind of on a different track.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep rolling, baby. I keep rolling.
So how has the pandemic altered your life as well as your business life?
Well, for anyone in my business, being boxing or MMA, combat sports, or just in entertainment, it has altered it dramatically, because for the most part, if a promoter or an entity doesn't have a major television deal, then they're basically on a regional level. And the brunt of your revenue comes from people coming in, asses in the seats. If you can't do that, then you can't make money, and you can't promote an event. So from a regional level on down, very few guys, like right now the UFC, because it has a major television deal with ESPN. Top Rank in boxing has a major television deal with ESPN and DAZN, I think. And if you have one of those, because there's a lot of people under those too, the brunt of your revenue is venues letting people in. Right now, most of the venues are not letting people in, so it has affected the regional level and the regional boxers greatly. And for myself, aside from some of the things that I'm doing under Burt Watson Promotions, I'm still very much out there for hire for someone that wanted to do an event and needed a coordinator and needed that event put together. But on a regional level, nobody can have any events. There are no events happening. And right now, we're already into January. So that's probably not going to happen until March or April. And that's not good at all.
And my last question is, what advice can you give people about actually knowing what they worth, what they bring to the table, and negotiating that type of contract of how much money that a person should pay them on what they bring to the table?
You should first of all hone your skills and hone your craft and become the best that you can in what you do. And know that nothing that comes before you and nothing you do should be considered irrelevant. You become, and you hear it often, but it's so true, become the best at it. Become the best that you can be at your sport. You have to do that. You have to become very good. I am very confident at me being the OG in my sport. I'm very confident of being the OG, of putting, coordinating stuff together, because I've worked long and hard on doing that. But you have to do that first before you start demanding or requesting that people respect your craft and pay you for your craft. You can't just. I don't know if is this television? Is this? We're gonna have kids watching this.
Hey, you already cursed a little bit. Everybody watching it now, so you're good.
You can't just half-ass do anything. Half-ass gives you half-ass back. And nobody wants half-ass. Okay, I don't need to say you want the whole, but that's what you have to do. And then once you've established yourself as a person that can be depended on, that can get the job done consistently and without somebody telling you how to do it and when to do it and where to do it and what step to take, and don't run through step A, B, C, D, and E, and then somebody gets F'd. You like that one? So you have to know how to do that. And once you establish and put all those things together, and that sounds like a lot, but it's not. All it is preparing yourself as best you can and becoming proficient in what you do and knowing what you do so that nobody else does it any better than you do. Then you can sit down and negotiate for your money, negotiate for your pay, and negotiate how somebody should treat you. 100%, baby. And go get that cheese. Go get that cheese. There's more than enough money out there for everybody. And everybody knows it because they see it and they hear it. But you know what? Make somebody want to pay you that cheese. Do your job well enough. And not just once. And you got to win more than one title to be called a GOAT. You got to win more than one championship to be called a dynasty.
Was those shots at Kansas City?
Huh?
I said, was those shots at Kansas City?
No. If it's one and done, the shot's the shot, baby. You gotta become consistent. And yes, honestly, it takes more than just one championship to be considered the best of all time or the best of or the GOAT. That's just the way it is. It's like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And what kind of champion can you be or whatever? You get hit in the mouth and you're done. But no, I actually happen to like Kansas City and I am very proud. I never paid as much attention to sports as I have over the last 3 or 4 years because I've been so enthralled. But I'm beginning to see, and I am very proud of the group of young men that are out there now and that are the faces of the NBA and the NFL and the UFC and the PFL, and the NHL and even those in baseball and MMA and boxing. I am very proud of the young men who are in the forefront of these sports today because they are all living up to and carrying on the legacy of those sports. They should know it because everybody's compared to somebody.
Yep.
Everybody. I don't care who you are. They're going to compare you to somebody. Well, he looks like a little, Burt Watson. But he can fake all he wants to, but he ain't got that we rolling. Okay, I heard somebody told me once that, "Oh, Bert, we had some guy in the background that was yelling, we rolling." We started to pour water on his head. But you're always going to be compared to somebody for a reason. So you're not going to get that comparison. When they start comparing you to people, then you got more than one.
Okay. So before I let you go, can you explain to my viewers where we can find your promotions, your company, as well as find you on social media platforms?
I am I am becoming very active on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook under Burt Watson for real. And I am just starting my own YouTube channel. And please, I want everybody to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Under Burt Watson Promotion, I put all of my interviews. When you send me a clip of this interview, this is going to be up there. I put all of my interviews up there. But everybody go to Burt Watson for real and subscribe. And lastly, I am now doing a podcast called Legends to Legends. And that's where I sit with the true legends. Legends like Randy Couture, George St. Pierre, Chael Sonnen, and BJ Penn, and Rampage, and I won't name other names. I'm not going to name a name I haven't got yet. But just legends. And it's not an interview, it's OG chatter, baby. It's where I sit and talk about career, family lives, and things we've worked together. And it's called Legends to Legends with Burt Watson.
Amen. You hear it first.
On MMA Junkie, baby.
You heard it first from Mr. Burt. Again, thank y'all for joining me. This is Fargo Franklin III. If y'all want, y'all can definitely follow me on my Instagram, which is SuperJournalist87. Y'all can follow me on my Facebook, which is Fargo Franklin III. Y'all can actually look at my LinkedIn, which is Fargo Franklin III, or you can actually Google me, which is Fargo Franklin III, to actually see all the exclusive interviews that I do with your favorite media personalities, people in the media field, athletes, celebrities, or people that are doing phenomenal things in their communities. Again, thank you, Mr. Burt, for joining me. We would definitely,
baby. Burt Watson, we rolling, baby. You know the drill. Your name, get it right, baby.
You heard it first. All right, now definitely have a blessed, productive day, and we'll talk soon.
I appreciate it, baby. Thanks for having me, man.
Always.
Appreciate it.
Always. Yes, sir.